Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Keir, and joining me as always is my co-host, Austin Davidson.
Hello.
It's Season 2, and for the last time, it is our final episode of Season 2, Episode 73. The 2017-18 NFL season is over, and surprisingly enough, the Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions over the New England Patriots, trying to make a bid for back-to-back championships. Their sixth overall falls short. The Philadelphia Eagles, led by backup quarterback Nick Foles, who was the game's MVP, prevail 41-33. And the city of Philadelphia somehow survived the celebration, but it was certainly a shocking result, to say the least, as far as how the game went down, and even more surprising of who was the MVP. Nick Foles, obviously, the backup quarterback to Carson Wentz. So I guess let's just talk a little bit about the game, Austin, just real quickly. Did you enjoy it? You know, what was good and bad about the game? Let's kind of just talk a little bit about it, you know?
Yeah, I did enjoy it. Not as much as everyone else seemingly did, though. What was good about it was that it was entertaining for the general crowd, and as it was a shootout, and the NFL needed that. The NFL needed to draw in as much people as they could because they were taking a hit to ratings this year, and still this Super Bowl actually took a hit to ratings, as we'll get to that later, I believe. What was bad about it was it wasn't as enjoyable for big football fans, the hardcore fans, the more into it, as there was no defense played other than one big play in the entire game for defense. What did you think of the game? Did you enjoy it?
Well, let me ask you, I'll touch on the ratings in a moment, but when you were watching the game, the enjoyment of it, how much you were entertained by it, do you think it was impacted at all by what happened with the result, with the fact that it was the New England Patriots we were talking about?
I honestly don't believe so. I'm not sure. I never really thought about it. What do you think?
Well, the way I see it is that for a lot of Steelers fans, when they watch that game, they think about the Patriots losing and not getting their sixth Super Bowl. I think there has to be a lot of satisfaction taken into account there when you realize that once they lose, the Steelers are still the only team on top. So maybe at that point, which is I think might have been the case for me, I enjoyed it a little more at the time, and then as time has gone on, I have enjoyed it a little bit less. That's just what I think.
I gotcha. Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. I didn't want the Patriots to get to their sixth ring, so Patriots fans would say that they're tied for the most rings in the NFL. Nah, I don't want that.
Yeah, exactly. As far as the ratings go, I think a lot of the NFL ratings, Austin, can be attributed to the fact that a lot of people stream now. I do that myself. I've streamed most of the games last year and this year. It's not, I don't have the DirecTV package. You have that, right?
I do. I do have the DirecTV package.
So this wouldn't play into Austin's watching, but I have to stream because I only have basic cable. And I don't have any service that would allow me to see the Steelers in a different state, so I have to use streaming services, and obviously that's not picked up with the television ratings. This was the lowest rating for the Super Bowl since 2010 with the Saints and Colts Super Bowl 44. So just something to keep in mind there. But as far as the good of this game, I really thought it was entertaining to watch, and I know most people, and you for sure, would agree with me. There were a lot of fantastic individual performances on offenses. There were aggressive decisions on both sides of the football and fantastic team efforts from there. The game came down to the wire, and the fact of the matter is the only defensive play came at the most important time. So I think that helps it, but I think we're in agreement here. This isn't an all-time great game because there was no defense. And by that I said there was one defensive play. Both teams drove up and down the field at will. And it wasn't like it was a ton of huge plays. There were a few, but it was, every play was 5 yards at least. Teams it felt like they rarely faced third downs that were, 5 yards or more. It felt like they were getting into a lot of third and manageable situations, which they turned into first downs, and it just kept going and going and going, and the tackling was terrible. But when it comes down to it, as far as offense goes, Austin, I know you agree with me on this. Offense is good, but is it really fun when a team is scoring a field goal at least on every drive? Is it really fun to have to root for, man, hopefully they only give up 3 points this time?
No, it's really not. You want to really be able to root for you want to be able to see a team get a stop every once in a while. You want to see a team get a nice sack on third down. You want to see a team get an interception here and there, maybe even a few fumble recovery, something interesting on defense. It can't just be interesting on offense, because then you just kind of sit there waiting for the whatever team you're rooting for to get on offense. There's nothing to root for if your defense is doing nothing for half the game. It's just, for me, I honestly hope that this is not the direction that football is going in. Even though it seems right now that the sport is heading in this way, if it ends up like this, if it ends up keeps going this way, where I may not watch football for years, there is no kidding ourselves that with new rules and such, it's become much harder to play defense in the past 20 years or so. And if it ever gets to the point where the games are consistently like 50 to 45, I'll be done watching the NFL, quite frankly, because I'll lose interest. It's not like a threat. It's not like, oh, you better change. It's just, I'm going to be bored. It's just how it is. It's not what I enjoy in the game. I love seeing the Broncos stout defense. I love seeing the Jaguars corner duo they have going. I love watching every single sack the Steelers had this year. It's fun for me. Taking that away takes away half the enjoyment. But to address the question of is the way this is heading right now, is this offense based play good for football? Is this direction we're heading? It is good for the general fan. It's good for football because it caters to the casual fan more. It makes it more watchable for the general crowd because the general public likes shootouts. People that don't understand football so much can understand what a touchdown is. Like, it's really simple. You see people cheer just like that. I mean, you say that because if a team gets an interception, people cheer, but a touchdown is more iconic than an interception. When you think of football, you think of touchdown. You don't think of interception. That's a whole nother, that's psychology we're going into. But I just hope it doesn't end up that way ever. I don't think it will, though. What do you think about teams becoming more offense-based and less defense-based? Is this going to be good for football?
Well,
what do you think?
Let's also consider that a lot of casual fans play fantasy football too, and obviously more points means more of their guys scoring more. So that's something else to consider as well. As far as what the average fan prefers regarding this, it's yes and no. Again, the casual fan's going to love this. I'm not going to argue with people who enjoy a game that's 34-31 or 41-38 or something like that. I just happen to prefer a game that ends 23-20 or 17-14. Seeing highlight reel plays are what's all about making this sport fantastic and eye-popping. When you have more of those players making those plays and scoring more, it's going to be good for casual fans. But I just think that people who have analyzed it more like us and come from more of a defensive background, and the Steelers are built on defense, have been since the 1970s, they're going to appreciate more of a balance between offense and defense. And again, some of the better games in the NFL this year have been higher scoring. But I think the NFL, if they push too hard in this direction, which I don't think they will, but if they do, they're going to start walking the line soon between what we see in some college football conferences. Now, obviously not all of Division I college football is like this. Like the SEC is more lower scoring, but the Big 12, they play no defense at all. In fact, there was a game I specifically remember. I was, using my phone in the locker room before football practice, before a football game one day, and I heard about the score between a West Virginia and a Baylor football game. Geno Smith was the quarterback of West Virginia. That was a while ago. I think it was 2012, 2011. And the score, Austin, I tagged you in the link with it, was 70-63. I'm actually going to pull up the box score right now. Now, again, let's keep in mind here that this is college football and the rules are a little different, and it's all spread offense and they run hurry up, so they're going to have more plays. But Let's look at some of these stats. West Virginia had 3 players, Austin, with 10-plus catches in the game. That's 30 receptions for just 3 players. That's insanity, right?
Yeah, I feel like that happened last season in the NFL with Aaron Rodgers. That was after they hurt all their running backs. So that doesn't happen in the NFL, like, ever. It's not very common, at least.
And then you look beyond that. All right, so it was 70-63. Well, how many points did they score per quarter? The lowest scoring quarter that either team had was 7 by Baylor in the third quarter. Every other quarter, each team had at least 2 touchdowns. It was both teams had 14 and 21 in the first quarter and second quarter, respectively. West Virginia had 21 in the third, while Baylor had 7, and in the fourth, Baylor had 21 and West Virginia had 14. So, on top of all of that, just this. All right, the thing you need to hear is the score at halftime. It was 35-all. You might see that at the end of the game. The yards, 807 to 700. One turnover the entire game. And how much did these guys throw the football? Geno Smith, 51 attempts, 8 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions, 656 yards. Baylor quarterback Nick Foles, 29 of 47 for 581 yards, 5 touchdowns, a paltry 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Oh, and it's not like these teams didn't run the ball either. Baylor had 45 rushing attempts. So they ran 92 plays. West Virginia had 37 rushing attempts themselves. Baylor had 45 of these carries for 119 yards. They averaged 2.6 yards a carry, but still managed 4 touchdowns and still had 120 rushing yards. You know, can somebody play defense? Anybody? You know, the Bueller thing, like where was the defense? So, again, we're not talking about the NFL reaching that, but the point is, football isn't fun when, at least not to us, when a team is going to score on every drive. That's what the end of this game looks like, and we don't want, or we thought it was going to look like, we don't want the NFL to head in that direction. It's not as fun. You know, I'll watch a couple of those games a year. They're okay. But I don't like it when that's what football is heading towards. I prefer more even games that are a little more defensive based. You know, even 41-38, okay, fine. I'll take that every now and then. 34-31, I'll take that too. That's fine. But I don't like the way the league is heading right now as far as if they continue to push that far. If they can manage a little bit better as far as the average points, if it goes from say 23 to 29 or 30, okay, but that's starting to get close to walking the line there. But we can talk for a long time about this later in the offseason. So let's move on now. Nick Foles, the backup quarterback for the Eagles, looked lost a month ago. What can be said about the transformation of Nick Foles from a backup quarterback who was considered washed up to going back, taking over the starting role with the injury to Carson Wentz and becoming a Super Bowl MVP, out-dueling Tom Brady in the biggest game of them all?
It's incredible. We talked about what he had to do to get this team to win, and he did beyond that. He threw 3 touchdowns and caught 1. His come up from the beginning when he started was incredible, and he deserves major props for proving everyone wrong. His speech was awesome, by the way. I don't know if you got to see it. A lot of athletes printed it out and reporters printed it out because it was such an awesome speech and could be taken away from football. He did amazing. He came up and kept up with Tom Brady pretty much. He did keep up with Tom Brady. He did the exact same and just threw an interception, which was Alshon Jeffrey's fault. But shout out to him. What can be said for you? What do you think about his transformation over the past 5 weeks or so?
I think we're going to be talking about this as one of the greatest underdog stories of all time, I'd have to think. His career up to this point had been a flash in the pan at best. He had a great year in 2013, but there were legitimate doubts about whether or not this dude could play quarterback. Even if he isn't, the greatest quarterback ever, the guy that we saw at the end of the playoffs, even if he's not, I struggled to say that, even if he's not the guy we saw the last 2 games of the year, there's no longer any doubt. He belongs in this league, and he will be forever remembered as a hero in Philadelphia for what he did helping lead this team to victory. Nobody gave this team a chance when Carson Wentz went down, and it was understandable. But Foles came in, and the offense struggled for a few games, but when he found his groove, boy, did he find it. It looked like 2013 again. And the Eagles, who were the first number one seed to ever be underdogs in their first playoff game in the divisional round, they won that game. They crushed the Vikings in the championship game. They outdueled the Patriots in the Super Bowl. They were favored in none of those games, despite having the best record in the NFL for the entire season. And, despite losing Carson Wentz, no matter how many more Super Bowls Carson Wentz wins or any other quarterback in Philadelphia ever wins, nothing will ever compare to Nick Foles leading this team to its first Super Bowl championship, outdueling the greatest quarterback of this generation and maybe the best quarterback ever. It's unbelievable what he did. And obviously it wasn't just him, but the fact that he was able to do what he did in that game and the games leading up was unbelievable. And as far as the unthinkable, which was upending the Patriots in the Super Bowl with their backup quarterback as they're trying to go back-to-back, how are we going to look back at this one as far as, both teams? How are we going to look at this game?
Well, for starters, we want to remember the worst Patriots team to ever make the Super Bowl. And I'm mostly going to draw comparisons about what if the Steelers had made it to the AFC Championship instead. But other than that, I'm going to be remembering the lowly underdog Eagles fighting their way to their first Super Bowl win with a Nick Foles at the helm. Wow, I'm really struggling with this answer. That's what I'm going to remember looking back. What are you going to remember looking back?
You know what I just realized? I thought about this earlier, but it never clicked in my mind. I'm pretty sure the NFC East is now the first division since the reformatting in 2002 where every team in the division has won a Super Bowl.
I believe so. Redskins, Giants, Cowboys definitely, and Eagles.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think any other division has that.
Because it's definitely not the AFC North. It's definitely not the AFC South. Not the East because of Buffalo. The West. The Chargers haven't won, so it's no division in the AFC. The NFC. Let's think about this. The Packers have won. The Lions haven't. Okay. The South.
Falcons haven't.
Neither of the Panthers. So the West. The Cardinals. Yeah, so that's it. The NFC East. The NFC East is the only division where we now have every team has been a Super Bowl champion. Interesting factoid. Anyways, back to the point at hand. How am I going to remember this one? I think we're going to look back at this and we'll say two things. First, on the Eagles, they were aggressive in this game and they did what teams had to do to beat the Patriots with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Too often we see teams open aggressively or they have something that's working, and then as soon as the Patriots stop it for the first time in the second half or whenever their comeback starts, the team just goes away from the success they had. This time, the Eagles stayed committed to throwing the football on early downs, and they weren't afraid to attack the Patriots' suspect pass defense, even with their backup quarterback. The Patriots, like Austin said, was probably, if not the worst Super Bowl team they've had under Brady and Belichick. I would personally argue the 2001 team was the worst, but that was just because Tom Brady was a second-year player, and it was mostly a defense-first team. But that's a discussion for another time. The point is that this was not the same team that won the Super Bowl last year. They were much better last year. But in any case, during the season, the Patriots defense was able to mask some problems and improve in scoring defense despite having given up a lot of yards, similar to last year. But the Eagles exposed them all game long, and despite a heroic performance for Tom Brady that included 500 passing yards in a Super Bowl, it was not enough. And that simply has to fall on the defense. There's no doubt about it. But much in the same way that we criticize Ben Roethlisberger for his heroic performance that also included 2 turnovers, leading to 14 points, 7 of them directly, Roethlisberger deserves some of the blame for that game and that loss, and Tom Brady deserves some of the blame for this loss too. I don't care how many yards you throw for, how many touchdowns you throw for. The fact of the matter is the Patriots had a chance to win that game, and Tom Brady's fumble that led to 3 points and time off the clock for the Eagles. It didn't exactly lose them the game, but it gave them, it really contributed to the loss. And he may not have deserved to lose with his performance, but the point is that he contributed to the losing effort, whether or not he, there's no doubt he played really well, but he contributed to the loss, and he deserves to be criticized in the same way that Ben Roethlisberger was criticized for his 2 turnovers in the Jaguars game. So that's just how I wanted to remind people that that's how it should be looked at. As far as other aspects of the game, there were 2 interesting plays, Austin. I know we were talking about this during the game. 2 controversial rulings. The first was the Corey Clement catch, and I'm just going to ask you straight up because I know we're going to talk more about the second play. Corey Clement catches the ball, gets 2 feet down, but then readjusts the football in his hands, takes another step, and that final step is out of bounds. I got to be honest with you, in the regular season, or even 2 weeks ago, I think that's ruled incomplete. Am I wrong to think that?
No, I thought it was incomplete as well. I was in full agreement with, I believe it was Chris Collinsworth, that he didn't think it was a catch. He thought it was coming back. I thought that at first it looked really pretty, and then I was like, oh no, that bobble really messed it up. And I'm honestly, it just shows you how confusing the catch rule is and how they pick and choose really what they want to enforce and what they don't. Because it's just, to me, based on rulings of like 2 weeks ago, as of recently, that wouldn't have been a catch. That would have not, no way, especially against the Patriots. If you told me that happened against the Patriots, I wouldn't have believed you. It's just, I don't know. I feel like the NFL just really, they need to redesign their rule book to make it more easy, and that catch is prime example of why. Because I honestly thought it was incomplete as well. Yes.
If the Patriots fans have something that they deserve to complain about in this game, that is the call I would point to. Right?
Yeah, it is if they get something to complain about, but they've had the refs on their side for about the past 8 weeks of the season, so I don't think they don't get a chance to complain.
Well, yes, I know what you're saying, but my point is that if they do have something that's legit to complain about, that is definitely something. But the committee that's reviewing the catch rule, Mike Tomlin is on that, and I believe they started meeting this week, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or is it the end of last? I know they're meeting soon, so deliberations on that should be starting any moment. So
yeah, I didn't see when they're meeting up. I honestly didn't know they were starting.
I know they're doing it soon, so hopefully we'll see some positive updates from that. But the other play, the one that Steelers fans lost their mind over, and we definitely lost our mind over as well, the go-ahead touchdown to Zach Ertz. There's obviously some key differences that we know of now, but do you think there's any possibility that the Jesse James ruling influenced this play to be ruled a touchdown as opposed to incomplete?
I think it played a tiny bit of a role. I think the NFL was scared to make another mistake where they, especially under the big lights where all the fans were in agreement that was totally a catch. I think they were a little scared to make that ruling, to choose in the Patriots' favor. But honestly, it was a little different than the Jesse James one, in my opinion, because he took a step or two after he received the ball, then dove. Jesse James was in the process of diving as he got not diving. He was kind of falling with the ball. Zach Ertz got to put his foot down, plant, and move. It was slightly different. I thought it was easier to see I thought it was easier to see a football move made for Zach Ertz, but not to say that I didn't think Jesse James made a football move. I think that the extension of the ball was a football move, but that is that's a debate for another time. But what did you think of the Zach Ertz touchdown?
Well, originally I said I very much subscribed to the theory that the James play influenced it. I'm more in agreement with you now. It was a minor thing, a minor influence for it. Yes, I don't think there's any scenario the NFL could have overturned that, because if they do, I think that's the beginning of the end for the NFL as far as their popularity. How could you rule that not a touchdown, you know?
I don't know. The refs are insane. The NFL is insane. It needs to be fixed before they start losing major views.
And that would have been just ugly. But the Ertz catch, let's look at the two main differences between the Jesse James play and the Zach Ertz play, and I'll put them up on video for us, overlaying us talking about it. So the Jesse James play, I very much remember. He got his right foot down, then his left knee came down, and then I think he reached over. Or I couldn't remember. You know what? Why don't I just pull this up right now, Austin, because it's going to bother me. But I know that there's two main differences. One, Zach Ertz took more steps than Jesse James did. Jesse James took, I believe, technically 3 with the knee coming down, and the Zach Ertz play, he took 4 steps, right?
Something like that. I'm bringing it up now as we speak.
Okay. I'm bringing up the Jesse James play right now. And nope, that's not a video. Okay, here we go. Oh, Juju running down the field. I really still can't believe the Steelers lost this game. I know all of Steeler Nation is just really still upset about it. Okay, here we go. Roethlisberger back, pump to the right, in the middle. All right, I see both feet go down, and then I see his left knee. So the key here is that Zach Ertz is a runner at that point, and Jesse James is going to the ground. So Ertz not only gets more feet down than Jesse James did, he's also running where James is falling to the ground, right? Can we agree that those are the main differences in those plays?
I agree. Yep.
All right, let me see if I can get slow motion right here. Okay, so James catches the ball, left foot down, then the knee and the right foot again, and then he reaches, and then it's called incomplete. The Zach Ertz play, on the other hand, let's see here. Oh, this is the whole drive. Here we go. Okay. Catches it at the 6. 1, 2, 3. I counted at least 4. And the thing about Ertz is that when he bobbled it, he also caught it. I wasn't sure if that played a factor. Do you think that played a factor as well?
I don't think so. I honestly not sure about that one because I feel like he caught it and had 3 steps. Even if he bobbled it on the first step, he still had 2 more steps to cover it. And then I don't know if you saw in the slow motion of the drive one, you also saw him drag his foot. You could literally see the turf come up as he drags his foot down. It's easy to see on the slow motion when he's diving. I think it's about 129, and I think the clip that you're watching. I feel like the bobble played it didn't play a factor.
Okay. Well, regardless of the point we're trying to make here is the fact that Chris Collinsworth was openly saying that he thought it was going to be incomplete shows you how messed up the catch rule is. And that's our take on these 2 particular catches. Once again, we'll have plenty of time to get into the catch rule in the offseason. But on to the next issue. You remember this guy, Malcolm Butler, right? Didn't he, make a big play at the end of Super Bowl 49 or something like that? What did he do exactly?
I think he may have done something. He might have I think he was at the 1 yard line where he got that I think it was an interception that ended the game for Super Bowl 49 and won the Patriots the Super Bowl, but I can't really remember.
Oh, you mean the game they definitely would have lost had the Seahawks run the ball?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that's right. But he did make a great play. We can't deny that. So, Austin, could you tell me why he didn't play at all in the Super Bowl?
It was a stupid decision. I am confident Malcolm Butler could have made a difference out there. For reference, see Super Bowl 49. As to why he got benched, who really knows? It is said to be a combination of him being sick, him breaking curfew, him having a bad attitude in the locker room, and some other things. But most of these things were denied by him, so I don't really know. It doesn't even make sense. Even if there's some sort of punishment, even if it was because he was sick, let him play for a quarter, let him play for a half, something like that, just to give your defense that is obviously struggling in this game. You lost by over 40 points. They were struggling. You got to let the man play. He would have helped. I don't know. What do you think about this whole decision?
At least try him a few plays. If you're not going to play him at all, why even suit him up? Right?
It doesn't make sense. No, not at all.
I know we don't know all the facts right now. It's really confusing right now. But I based I'm basing what we know on what I'm about to say, and I think that this would be an understandable punishment for a regular season game. However, this is the Super Bowl. I want my best players out there so my team has the best chance to win the game. That's what I would do if I were the coach. Unless if Butler broke the law or something, which we would have known by now, or he just did something crazy in practice that would make the coaches say, we literally have no choice but to sit him, and I don't know what that could be. The coaching staff, and mostly Belichick, messed up here. And, because they lost, it was exposed as a huge error. He would have been hailed as a hero if they had won, but regardless, they lost, and he deserves the criticism. But could you imagine the kind of criticism Mike Tomlin would get if he benched, say, like Joe Hayden or something like that? And I yes, this is a little different because Malcolm Butler is probably better than any cornerback on the Steelers, or at least he's right around there. The point is that he made that would be like benching James Harrison almost, in his prime, the Super Bowl hero,
That would be traumatic for everyone.
That would be like if Mike Tomlin benched James Harrison in Super Bowl 45. He had already been a Super Bowl hero in Super Bowl 43 and just didn't play at all in Super Bowl 45. That's the only way I can equate it. And it's just, it would make no sense then, and it makes no sense now. Speaking of James Harrison, though, he played 60 plus snaps on Sunday, which he hadn't seen all season. By the way, he had 40 with the Steelers for some reason. In any case, he finished with 2 tackles and 2 quarterback hits, and what I counted to be about 5 missed tackles. I think 4 of them came early in the game. Did James Harrison just play his final game in the NFL?
Yeah, I think he's going to be signed by another team in the offseason, but I think he will be cut before he plays in a game for them. My guess, if I had to make an early guess right now for the offseason, he's going to the Titans. The Titans had interest in him in the offseason, in the past offseason before he got re-signed, and then he chose to stay in Pittsburgh. So I feel like the Titans are going to bring him in again and then just cut him. Because the Titans actually do need a pass rush, and I guess they're going to try and spin the wheels on James Harrison, but that's my guess. What do you think? Is that his last game? Was this?
I don't see any way he plays a full season next year, meaning he starts training camp with the team and finishes with them. I could see one of two things happening if he plays, and this is what I think is most likely. I think he does play. I see a team either bringing him in during the preseason, like you said, and gets some action during the year, or gets cut, or he starts the year with the team and he gets cut before the start of the year. I think he'll play in at least preseason football. As far as his actual last game, I think it's more likely that that's it. He's not going back to the Patriots barring injury. I'd rather have their third-round pick last year, Derek Rivers, who came back from injury. This is probably his last ride, I'd have to imagine, right?
Yeah, and I can't imagine him playing in any more meaningful snaps.
All right. How did your X Factors pan out in this game?
For me, I had, for the Eagles, I chose Jay Ajayi on offense, and he is probably the least important running back for the Eagles. Blunt and Clement did way more, but still Ajayi rushed for nine times for 57 yards, which is an average of 6.3 yards a carry. It definitely isn't bad. On defense, I hit it good, though. Only way I could have chosen better is if I had chosen Brandon Graham, but Barnett recovered that huge fumble that Graham forced, so he was just as big in the process of making that a turnover. Otherwise, though, I guess I shouldn't say I really hit it, because Barnett finished with no other stats. That was the only stat he had in the entire game. But to be fair, that was probably the most important play in the game. So for the Patriots, I had Nate Solder as my X Factor, and he did pretty good. Brady got hit 9 times, but not a lot came from his side. And the strip sack came from the other side of the line. It was Shaq Mason's assignment, so he can't be blamed for that either. For defense, I had Stephon Gilmore, and he played the game of his life. He got moved over to shadow Alshon Jeffrey after Jeffrey was doing damage in the beginning, and it literally shut him down. I know that the Patriots defense did awful, and people are going to remember that, but Stephon Gilmore actually did really good in this game. His last catch of the game for Jeffrey, it came with 9:40 left in the second quarter, and it was also Gilmore who got Jeffrey to bobble a ball that led to an interception by Daron Harmon. So I would say I picked a good X Factor for the Patriots as well. As for bowl predictions, I hit nothing. How are your X Factors and bowl predictions?
Well, for my X Factor, sorry, I had Zach Ertz, the tight end for the Eagles. He caught 7 passes. I felt like all of them were huge, including 2 on the game-winning drive that I remember vividly. A 4th-and-1 catch that preserved the drive, and obviously the game-winning touchdown catch. He had 67 yards, and I thought he was a good pick. So good job on my part. I'll pat myself on the back. Malcolm Jenkins, I don't even care what his stat line says. They gave up 33 points, and there was no defense in this game, 500 passing yards against. 0 defense in this game again. He was terrible. Don't care what the stats say. Bad X Factor pick here. Chris Long for the Eagles. This is back into my bold predictions now. I predicted he'd have 2 sacks, and there was one the whole game, which did not come from him, so I missed there. I was very close. I had no Eagles receiver surpassing 100 yards, but Corey Clement reached 100 exactly, so I was just off the mark there.
I mean, I guess you're technically right. If you said wide receiver, you'd be right.
I know. Shame on me. I was nitpicky. But for the Patriots, I picked wide receiver Chris Hogan. He had 6 catches for 128 yards and a touchdown. It almost felt like a quiet day for Hogan, considering the big days by Gronkowski and Amendola. Amendola had more catches and yards, and Gronkowski had 2 touchdowns to Hogan's 1. But I mean, hey, Hogan played well, and he deserves a nod here too. It's like every time I see him, I always forget he played in Buffalo for a couple years, right?
Yeah.
Then I picked safety Duron Harmon. Outside of the sack by Brandon Graham, he had really the only other defensive play being a turnover, which was gift-wrapped to him by Alshon Jeffrey. He was terrible as well. He had a horrific tackling attempt on LeGarrette Blount that I remember. So he was bad. My bold predictions, Tom Brady did Tom Brady things. Why would I ever think he wouldn't throw a touchdown is just beyond me. Deion Lewis, who I predicted would be the game's MVP with 200 total yards, had just 39. Everyone else who touched the ball seemingly had 10 yards before they got touched. But to be fair, Deion Lewis only had 10 touches in this game. I'm still salty about how poorly the defense has played. And then my final score prediction, I had a Patriots close win 26-23. I was way off the mark for points on both sides. For the Patriots, I was only a touchdown off. But the Eagles, I was way, I missed the mark there. I failed there. You went over your X Factors and bold predictions, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So we're moving into this segment. This is going to be all you right now, Austin. The tale of the tape for Super Bowl 52. Take it away.
Yep, this is quite the interesting one. It set the record for the most combined yards in an NFL game with 1,151 yards put up, 538 coming from the Eagles and 613 coming from the Patriots. I wasn't really expecting that, to be honest. Don't get me wrong. I didn't think highly of either defense coming in, but I think Foles had him to do what he did. He threw for 387 yards, 3 touchdowns, and caught a touchdown pass. Like, how? He also threw an interception, but it was completely Alshon Jeffrey's fault, so I don't count that. Back to praising Nick Foles, though. He did amazing in this game. He looked poised and comfortable, like the good Nick Foles we saw before Jeff Fisher ruined him, like Jeff Fisher does with quarterbacks. It was exciting to see, especially that touchdown catch. I lost my mind. I saw him right away get open. I just thought it was the most amazing play and call I have ever seen. On 4th down, Peterson went deep in the playbook to get a play where Foles pretended to go up and change the play, yelling, "Kill, kill, kill." But really, he was moving up to set up as an eligible receiver, and the Patriots never saw it coming. Gutsy, great play call, and I commend Doug Peterson for this. Had the Coach of the Year vote been had after the Super Bowl, I think he would have won it over McVay. Back to the game, though. Like I said in the preview, Foles alone wouldn't be able to keep up with Brady, which was true, and the running backs would need to step up. Well, they did. Brady may have gotten more yards and no interceptions, but that was enough to overcome Foles and the running back group that he had. Every single running back for the Eagles contributed. It felt like every rush was a powerful one, especially from Blount. Blount especially impressed me in this one because I didn't think he was that good overall, but he came out absolutely huge in this game. His longest run was 36 yards, and he showed some elusiveness by breaking a tackle and then showed effort on the end by turning around and falling for 3 or 4 more yards while being tackled. The play really stuck out with me on that 36-yard run. Then he also got a nice 20-yard touchdown, which showed his speed and acceleration. He really did well in this game. Ajayi had a nice day as well. Not as many rushes, but he still had a nice 26-yard gain. Then Clement was a real star, not as a running back, but as a receiver. He led the team in yards on his 4 catches, one being a great touchdown catch. But I really loved his play where he stiff-armed Deron Harmon and gained 55 yards. There's just really something about stiff arms where they're just so fun to watch, and I thought it was just a nasty one. The last thing I want to say about the Eagles on offense is that I commend Nelson Alcohol. I really thought he was a gigantic bust. Ever since he was drafted, and I thought this would be his last year, but he came to play this season. And in the Super Bowl, he was the Eagles' best receiver, so shout out to him. As defense, they came up when it mattered most, but they were very useless. What else can you really say? They were just trash for 90% of the game. I can't really point fingers. They were all bad. There's no one that really did good. I will say, though, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Malcolm Jenkins absolutely dicked Brandon Cooks in this game. And I thought the defense was hard at that point, but it didn't turn out that way. But when Malcolm Jenkins decked Brandon Cooks, I was livid. I stood up. I was like, oh, no, he's dead. But that's the only good thing I could say about the defense, and that's not something – it's not supposed to be good. He injured a player, but, he was just trying to make a big hit. With all the Eagles stuff covered, it's time to talk Patriots. I've said this several times before, but this was the weakest Patriots team to make a Super Bowl, in my opinion. They had no star power on defense, where they usually had at least one, and it really came back to hurt them. The defense did absolutely nothing. That interception they got was basically Alshon Jeffrey handing the ball. It wasn't impressive. They're going to need to blow it all up this offseason, maybe get some help in the draft, because everywhere on defense needs addressing. They basically have to hope Eric Rivers, their first selection in the 2017 draft, who tore his ACL, pans out. And yes, he was in the 3rd round, but that was the first time the Patriots had a pick in the 2017 draft. But anyway, back to the game. They couldn't stop anything. They were just as trash as the Eagles' defense, and hopefully more because they lost. But I don't know. It was kind of close still. Bill Belichick probably had the worst decision of his coaching career, too, which was an interesting thing from Belichick. He benched Malcolm Butler, as we talked about, and elected to start Eric Rowe instead. We don't really know why yet. As we mentioned, there have been a bunch of rumors that have come out, but nothing that's been confirmed. Supposedly it was just a coaching decision, which is absolutely baffling. And maybe, of course, the Patriots for the game. As for the offense, Tom Brady can't do everything. He tried catching the ball, but he just can't. It was the only time I ever rooted for Brady because I thought it was so funny to see him out there wide open. It felt incomplete, though. Had it not, it could have been a game changer. But other than that, Brady was as good as ever in this game. He threw for over 500 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interception. And really just threw wherever he wanted, when he wanted, which is normal for Brady. His receivers were really great, too, especially Amendola. Throughout the passes, I've seen why he's called Danny Playoff, because he's just come alive the past few weeks. And he caught 8 passes for 152 yards, as well as threw a great ball to Tom Brady. Even though it wasn't caught, he threw that really well. I'm more impressed than anything, to be honest. I never thought of Amendola as more than the Patriots' number 3 wide receiver. And on other teams, I would think he'd be a number 4. So I just wanted to give him some credit. Then Chris Hogan also did really well, totaling 128 yards on 6 catches, as well as a touchdown. So he arguably did even better. So just to give mention before we get to the other Patriots receiving options, Brandon Cooks got literally rocked. Like, I already said this, but do you ever see that play that half a second before it happened, you just think he's about to be messed up? That's what I thought the moment before Cooks got laid out and taken out of the game. Continuing on, though, Gronk had a monstrous game on what could be his last game in the NFL. He caught 9 catches, 216 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I really hope he pursues his acting career because I would really like the Patriots to lose out on that beast. That really only leaves the running backs, and they were mostly lackluster. James White had a long rush of 26 yards, which was a touchdown. But other than that, there isn't much else to say. What this game came down to is which defense could force a turnover when it mattered, and honestly, that was the Eagles. Congratulations to them winning their first Super Bowl title. There's just one more thing that I wanted to talk about. That I haven't really seen many reports on it, but special teams in this game was just as bad as the defense in this game. There were 3 missed kicks total on both sides. The Eagles were the first one where Jake Elliott missed a PAT, and then I believe Gostkowski missed a field goal and can you double check this for me? I think he missed a field goal and a PAT. But I could be wrong on that one.
Of them,
I'm not very sure.
Austin.
But altogether, I'm sorry, what?
I was just going to say that one of them, don't forget, one of them was a bobbled snap.
Oh, yeah, one of them was a bobble snap. I forgot that. But still, special teams as a whole was really, really bad. So that really wraps up for me. Do you have anything else to add?
I'm trying to find the kicking. He missed a PAT and a PAT and a field goal. Gostowski did.
Okay, I was correct. Good.
As far as the kick return and punt returns go, there was one punt, so there were no returns. Corey Clement had a 25-yard return. Kenyon Barner had a 27-yard return. Dion Lewis averaged 15 yards per kick return. Rex Burkhead, there was one nice special teams play. The Patriots on their right before their last drive tried to reverse at about the 10-yard line, but the Eagles snuffed it out. You remember that play?
Oh, I did, but still, it was almost dangerous. If I remember correctly, wouldn't they almost run back into the end zone?
Yeah.
Towards the end zone, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but they had to try something.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
All right, so prop bets. Let's run through these really quick, Austin, because I actually have a site of a bunch of Super Bowl prop bets. So, will Pink forget or omit a word of the national anthem? We both said no. Did she?
She didn't. We were good.
All right, because we had that highlighted as incorrect.
Yeah, it's red.
That's our fault. All right. Bill Belichick wearing a hoodie. I thought he didn't, and I predicted that he wouldn't, and I thought he did, but you had it the other way around at first.
See, I thought he didn't. I thought he was wearing like I don't know. I honestly don't know. Now that I can't think back of it, so it's a week now. It's a week ago.
Okay.
See, when I remember looking at it, I was like, is he wearing a hoodie? I was like, I don't know. That doesn't really look like a hoodie. That looks like a long sleeve shirt and
Okay,
a jacket.
You were right. I thought the overshirt was a sweatshirt, but it was not. It was a cutoff. So,
Yeah. So
I was actually right, which I thought was strange. I thought for sure I'd be wrong about that. Total viewers, over or under 111.5 million, according to Nielsen. We both predicted over. Those ratings flopped. Longest touchdown scored, we both predicted over 42.5 yards. We were wrong. It was actually under. Length of the national anthem, we predicted over 2 minutes. I think it was 1:58. So we just missed out on it.
yeah, it was close.
How many times will Carson Wentz be mentioned during the broadcast? 3.5 times. It was over. How many times will Giselle be shown during the broadcast? I went over. That was also correct. So I predicted over on those two, and Austin was under on those two. Will anyone other than Tom Brady or Nick Foles take a snap in this game? I said yes. Austin said no. The touchdown pass to Nick Foles was not taken by Foles. How many clips will be shown from Super Bowl 39? 2.5. We both predicted under. That was correct. First play of the game, rush or pass. I went rush. Austin went pass. It was a pass. Largest deficit of the game, 13 points. I predicted under. I was correct. Austin predicted more. Some other Super Bowl prop bets. What color will Pink's hair be when she sings the national anthem? White and blonde was 5-4 odds. Will Pink be airborne at any point during the national anthem? No. What else? Who will be mentioned? Oh, that one was not actually. That one was not finalized. Who will be shown first during the broadcast? Robert Kraft or Jeffrey Lurie, the owners. They were showed together on a split screen. What color will Bill Belichick's shirt be? Blue was 2-3. Over under Donald Trump tweets on February 4th, under 5. Will Donald Trump be mentioned during the broadcast? No, at 5-8 odds. How many times will Tom Brady's age be mentioned during the game? 1.5, under 1.5. What else here? Will Al Michaels refer to the spread of the game? No. 2-3 odds. I don't know. I guess that a lot of people thought that was going to happen. Who will win?
I don't know.
Who will the Super Bowl MVP mention first in his speech, Austin? There was doesn't mention anyone. Family, owner, coach, city, God, and teammate. It was God at 3-1. Will Tom Brady's jersey be stolen again? Yes was at 10-1 odds.
I would have. I wish I bet on that. I would have bet no. They literally said they have more security. I would have almost put all my money on that. I think, and I probably would. I wouldn't have come home with a lot of money, but I mean, still, I would have taken that bet. Oh, I wish I knew that was a prop bet.
Will there be a 2-point conversion successful in the game? No. Was it 5 to 14 odds? There was one attempted. Will there be a flea flicker? No, at 1 to 6. Will there be a penalty for excessive celebration? No, at 1 to 4. Total sacks under 4.5. Will there be a roughing the passer call? Under, so no. Longest successful field goal under 47.5 yards. Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles was second at 13 to 4 odds after Tom Brady. First touchdown Alshon Jeffrey at 12 to 1 odds. What else here? Nick Foles passing yards over under 235.5, obviously over. 1.5 touchdowns for Foles, over. Total completions for Foles, over 22.5. Pass attempts for Foles, 33.5, over. Passing yards for Brady, over 285.5. Total touchdowns, over 2. Total completions, over 25.5. Total attempts, over 37.5. Most receiving yards, Danny Amendola was 7 to 1 odds. Zach Ertz at 57.5 yards over. Alshon Jeffrey 55.5 yards over. Nelson Aguilar 37.5 over. Rob Gronkowski 75.5 over. Brandon Cooks under 67.5, but that's probably only because he got injured. Danny Amendola over 45.5 yards. Jay Ajayi under 62.5 rushing yards. LeGarrette Blount over 29.5 rushing yards. That happened on the first carry he had. Deion Lewis under 55.5. So, those are just some of the prop bets for the Super Bowl. So, back to the game itself. Where's this going to rank all-time amongst all Super Bowls?
A lot of people put this in their top 10 or even top 5 Super Bowls of all time. And frankly, I just can't agree. Elliot Harrison, man, I hate him as an analyst. He is just awful. He does. I can't complain about him enough. I think he had this Super Bowl at number 1 now, and then what else did he have? He had last year's Super Bowl at like number 3. I don't know. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but I like defensive play, and there was none in this game. It's why I don't like college football. There's no defense. So for me, this still might get into my top 15 at number 15. That's a close one. It's very bordering it, but it wasn't a top 10 game for me for sure. What did you think?
For me, this one is probably between the mid-teens and the mid to low 20s. It was an entertaining game, I will give it that. But when you consider just how little defense there actually was in this game, it was absolutely not a complete game. Had the Patriots scored a touchdown and won on their second to last drive where the fumble occurred, I'd argue this would end in the 30s. There was, again, one defensive play made. It just happened to be huge, but that doesn't excuse the poor pass rush, awful tackling, non-existent and blown coverage and rushing assignments that we missed from both defense. It was so bad, and despite it being entertaining, I can't justify putting it in the top 10, and I'd have a really hard time putting it in the top 15 now, too. So last question, Austin. What do the Eagles do at quarterback now? Do they keep Nick Foles? He's under contract for one more year at an affordable price. Or do they try and trade him? I'm assuming that they pick Wentz over Foles because that's the most logical decision. There's no scenario where they don't, right?
No. Cleveland. Just go to Cleveland. As soon as free agency opens up, you don't even have to wait for free agency, really. You could just do what the Redskins did and the Chiefs. But get them on the phone and offer them Nick Foles in the 6th for the 4th pick in the NFL draft. I'm sure they will go for it. Nick Foles is 28. He's still got years to go, and Cleveland is a team that will take anyone. But really, they should try shopping him. They should try trading him, turn him into something for them, because as a backup, Sudfeld showed promise, and the team could pay the Eagles a lot for Foles. It's just better to flip him than anything, because are you really going to bet on on Carson Wentz getting injured again next year? I mean, sure, it was an ACL injury, but even then, are you going to then want to give Nick Foles another contract when another team is going to offer him probably way more to be a starter? I think you need to flip him now because there's just no reason to keep him. You're betting on Carson Wentz getting injured this year, and that's it, because Nick Foles is going to leave after this year once he's found out, hey, I'm not going to be a starter for this team again when Carson Wentz gets healthy. I'm just going to go somewhere else where they're going to pay me, they're going to let me be the starter, and so on and so forth. So the Eagles need to trade him this offseason, in my personal opinion. What do you think?
I had originally thought they should have kept him because you can never have the best insurance policy in football is a good backup quarterback, and that's what they have. But look at what the Patriots did. Granted, this was a different situation, but what did they do with Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett? They traded both of them. They knew that especially with Garoppolo, if they just let him sit, he was going to leave. So you'd love to get 2 second-round picks for him, but if you can only get a second and a seventh or something like that, take it. Do it in the draft. Help him build your offense or defense a little bit better in the draft. So trade him. It's not the worst thing in the world if you can't trade him, Austin, either. That's the thing you have to consider. Yes, you'd love to get something for him, but hey, just in case something does happen to Wentz, you never know. Foles could be the guy again. He probably won't do it again, but he proved he can do it. So the Eagles have a good problem. Let's put it that way, right?
Yeah, this is a good problem to have, to be honest. You're correct.
Alrighty, Austin. Is there anything else we wanted to say about Super Bowl 52 before we wrap up this episode in Season 2 of the Stronger Than Steel podcast?
Nope, we're on to the 2018 season.
Alrighty. About time. It's been a long month since the Steelers lost in the playoffs, but in any case, the Steelers on to 2018. We are on to 2018 as well, the season in any case. Thank you so much for joining us throughout the 2017 season, our first full season of the Stronger Than Steel podcast. Last year we picked it up about halfway through the season. Had a great time last year, and we had a great time this year, and we're looking forward to the off season, and hopefully we'll have some good news to report with Le'Veon Bell and others. And we'll get to the signings of guys like Roosevelt Nix and the additions and changes on the coaching staff with Carnell Lake and Tom Bradley later. But again, we wanted to thank all of our listeners and our followers for staying with us through a long and fun but ultimately frustrating season that didn't end the way we wanted it to. It's been a lot of fun doing this with you, Austin. I'm looking forward to hopefully doing it again next year, right?
Yeah, we'll be back not too far in advance. We're going to be getting up to, we're going to do a next season outlook, and then we're going to get into pre-draft analysis pretty quickly. It's not like we're taking a long break here.
Yeah, the work has just begun, so fear not. So thank you again for joining us, and obviously, as always, if you have any questions about the show or you want to, just ask us about the Steelers, email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the show on Twitter at @stronger_steel. And you can follow us on Instagram at @stronger_steel_NFL. You can check out our podcast on Facebook at Stronger Than Steel Podcast. We're on SoundCloud, YouTube, and iTunes. And visit our website, strongerthansteelnfl.blogspot.com. And Austin, do you know your Twitter handle off the bat? We can have our followers follow you as well.
Like my personal Twitter?
Sure, if you want. Why not?
At Austin_D1.
And if you want to follow me, it's at John Kier, Kier 46. Thank you so much, listeners, again. We had a great time, and if you have any feedback about the show you want to offer, since we'll be starting up a new season soon, feel free to. And thanks for all of our listeners. I remember Steel74 from YouTube. Haven't heard from him in a while. I'm not trying to, call you out or anything, but we want to hear from you. It's been a disappointing offseason. We want fans to share the misery with. But in any case, thank you so much for listening. You guys have a fantastic night. And Austin, thank you again for joining me for a fantastic season of the Stronger Than Steel podcast.
Have a good off season.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.